Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. Today, we will be covering a crucial parameter, arsenic, how it impacts water quality, and the tools you can use to measure heavy metals like arsenic in water. I'm Shaurya from the commercial team at Palentest, and I'm joined with my colleague Lauren, who is our technical support and training manager, and we will be hosting this session today. The session will last about 45 minutes. And we'll start with an introduction of why arsenic is so crucial, the various methods out there to test for arsenic in water, and the pros and cons of this. Then we would like to introduce you to our unique technology, chemio sensor technology, that allows you to test heavy metals in water. And Lauren here is going to take us through a live demonstration of the test. We'll finish up with a question and answer session. Feel free to drop in any questions you have in the chat function, and we will pick up in the end. Finally, I want to say it's great to see a participation, amazing participation today. We have got a variety of audience joining from many different countries, a mix of our partners and end users as well, from labs, from NGOs, from public institutions. So it's great to be here today. Some of the people they are engaging with Parent Test first time through this webinar, so I wanted to give them a brief introduction to Parent Test. We are a manufacturer of water testing technologies. We design, develop, and manufacture our technologies here in the UK, and then we work via various distribution partners across the world who are very close to the markets to serve customer needs to provide the best sales and after sales experience. We focus on making great technologies that help users to make confident decisions in the field about the water quality. As you can see here, it's our portfolio on the screen. We have a very simple and focused portfolio. We focus on portable water testing solutions. So all of these product lines that you're seeing here, they allow you to test water quality in the field. They can be used by operators who are doing many different tasks in a day. They can carry it out to the sampling location. They can keep it on a bench and they can get the results immediately. So this is not a lab test where you are waiting for results over a long period, or you require a very advanced chemistry degree to operate a very sophisticated equipment. This is more for the process where you are making decisions immediately, and you have operators who are carrying these instruments to ensure the water treatment process is working as it should. And today we're going to focus a lot more on our electrochemical technology, because that's where it allows you to measure some of the crucial heavy metals in water. But overall, this portfolio allows you to measure uh, over 70 chemical, physical, and microbiological parameters. So depending on the various needs of the customer, these allow you to make confident decisions about the water quality. So now we're gonna focus the session today on arsenic, and the reason why this is so crucial. Firstly, arsenic is a naturally found contaminant in groundwater. So it exists in nature, in the ground, and whenever the communities are drinking water source that comes from the ground, they are at risk of arsenic contamination. Arsenic can cause major public health issue, especially with the skin lesions, and the WHO has set up a limit of 10 parts per billion. That is the concentration of arsenic that should be in the water. Anything above than that, the community is at risk of having issues with their health when they're consuming this water. As you can see here on the map, many of the regions, they are actually impacted by the arsenic contamination. You can see belts in east part of like India, Bangladesh, Nepal. You have a belt in Chile or South America. Then you have a belt across in West America, west part of America, some parts in Africa as well, where there's mining activity, which also is a pollutant that can cause arsenic in water. Hence why it is really crucial. And now arsenic is one of those parameters, you can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't smell it in water. So the only way to find arsenic in water, to detect arsenic in water, is to test it. That's why there are various methods out in the market to test for arsenic. Now, when it comes to the field method, the most common is the test strip or the Gutzeit method that we see. And in the last few years, there have been studies which has shown the challenges users have felt with that, because the testing procedure is really complex, that can add to human error. And this also means the results are not reliable. Add to that the test time. it takes around it takes around 20 to 30 minutes to perform a single test, so repeat testing also is very time consuming. And then it generates hazardous waste. So there are some widely published studies which actually shows different brands of test strips and how they perform across. But the common theme was that these test strips, they were not reliable enough to make decisions in the field. Hence, about 2 years ago, we started working on developing a better solution to tackle this problem. So, we wanted to simplify the test, we wanted to make it much faster, we wanted to remove the hazardous waste material in the test method. And that's where we started working on developing the arsenic sensor, which forms as a new test on our chemio technology. So I wanted to introduce you that the test method, what the benefits it brings. So the goal was to make the test simpler. As you can see, it removes multiple steps. Lauren is going to do a demo later in the session, and you will be able to appreciate how simple it is for users in the field to carry out the test. It is very durable and robust, comes with IP67 waterproof rating. It is impact proof IK08 as well. And one of the most important feature is it works with turbid water. Now, because you're using test strips which are based on color change, when the water is really turbid, it can impact the accuracy of your test because the color can interfere. But because this method works on electrical measurement, you're not impacted by the turbidity in the water. It also features a touchscreen interface which tells you step by step for the users to how to carry out the test, and really crucial to remove the human error to make sure the testing procedure is very streamlined. And it features several of the EPA approved methods. EPA is the US regulatory body, Environmental Protection Agency. It has approved some of the test parameters, testing methods like chlorine dioxide, lead as approved method on this instrument. And finally, I wanted to share that you can also geotag the results. So you have the ability to perform the test, you get the results in 2 minutes, and then you upload that data so you can have the GPS coordinate of the test result, and then you have the test result and the location. So the way it works is really simple. You prepare the water sample, and then you take 10 ml of water sample. You use 6 ml of that for your test, and using a sensor which is the consumable, you perform the test in 2 minutes. You get the result and you are able to make a decision about the level of arsenic in water. This gives you a very objective reading because it works on electrochemistry. It's giving you very accurate objective number based on which you can make confident decisions. Another unique feature that it provides is it can speciate between arsenic 3, 5, and total arsenic. So arsenic exists in two forms in nature, arsenic 3 and arsenic 5. And why this is important is one of the species is more toxic, and some of the arsenic filters, they tend to remove one species of arsenic instead of the total arsenic. So you want to see how effective the water treatment system is, and sometimes you want to actually speciate between the two forms of arsenic and see what's the different level. Together combined, they are known as total arsenic, which is also one of the tests Chemio does. Normally, we see total arsenic as the most popular test, and then there are some niche applications where we see users interested in speciated 3 and 5. Now we talked about the arsenic as a challenge in itself and how Cameo is helping solve that challenge. I've got a video here which compares the good side method with the Cameo arsenic technology. So we do side by side testing, and you will see in the same amount of time how many more tests Cameo is able to do. Plus, also it generates a less amount of hazardous waste. Right. So as you can see on that, when we did side by side testing, we were able to perform a lot many more tests. And this means that the end users, they can cover more sites in a single day if they're traveling to different well location, or they can carry out more number of tests without using that much of the labor time or the people time involved in the test. And now we appreciate some of the existing users, they already are using our previous method. So we are also coming up with offers to help them upgrade to the new version and make it much more easier, so that they can update to the new technology. So we will reach out later on for if you have any, if you are already using the existing platform, the previous platform, and you have interest in the new version, we can discuss that separately. I wanna share like some of the science behind it. Lauren, when she performs the test, she gonna talk about what's happening in the test. But on a high level, you have a water sample, you need the chemio instrument and the sensor, and together that allows you to measure water quality. So what exactly are sensors doing? Sensors are the consumable in this case. Sensor is where the reaction happens. It has multiple electrodes where the arsenic does a chemical reaction, and that chemical reaction generates a signal. So if there is higher amount of arsenic in it, there's a higher current, and that current is then measured by chemio and reported as a reading. So all our batches we calibrate from a factory, from a manufacturing location in UK. We do lots and lots of testing to calibrate them against known ICP-MS standards, and this allows us to measure arsenic in the field in a very reliable way. Now I want to talk through some of the benefits that this brings. As you see, because the sensor is working on electrochemistry, we are able to perform some unique things with it. Firstly, when we compare it against the gold standard, which is the ICP-MS method, it's used in the labs, a very sophisticated, highly expensive machine. We saw a really good correlation of 0.99. As you can see here on the graph at different testing points we tested. When we were developing this, we were collecting field water samples to cross validate the performance as well. And across these methods, so obviously the lab methods, they are the gold standard, and they help you get the best results, but the challenges with them is they're highly expensive. Not all the users can afford them, and also they require a very advanced chemistry background to operate. Plus you need to have lots of samples to make it cost effective. Like if you have a few samples, a few dozen samples, you probably wouldn't want to invest in a ICP-MS machine, or you don't want to start on every single day, because it takes a huge amount of resource to do that. Whereas with these field methods, they are more for when you want to quickly assess. Like there are many drinking water points, bore wells, where you want to make a decision, very immediate decision, and tell the community whether the water is safe or not, whether you want to take an action. And that's where Cameo comes in very handy as the tool. Another unique advantage we talked about is the ability to test in murky water. So as you can see on the left, we took different samples, and from the ground, it also has sometimes soil, especially when the water sample is coming from a borewell or a hand pump. But Cameo has the ability to also test the murky sample because it works on electrochemistry. It's not measuring color change, it's measuring the electric current, and that's why it's even able to perform well across turbid sample, which is really crucial in this type of application. And the final point is the GPS coordinates. So once you have done the test, you are able to upload the data onto the cloud. And here, as you can see on the screen, you have the testing history, but also you can uh, take a picture of the sampling location. This was me personally. I did a test. I took a picture of where the testing was done, and it also automatically picks up the GPS coordinate. This is really useful for compliance and for like public health departments, because then they can visualize the data where the hotspots are, where arsenic problem is much bigger, where they need to spend more resources. So those were some of the benefits that you get with Cameo technology. Obviously, a lot comes through our customer feedback. When we worked with them in development of this platform, we learned how they are using this data. We learned what challenges, the practical challenges they face in the field, and based on that, it was developed. Now I want to share you one of the case study we have. So already we are starting to work in some hotspot areas where arsenic is a big problem in groundwater. We have started to work in some activities in Africa, some activity in Asia, parts of Nepal and Bangladesh, where we see a challenge of arsenic. And I want to share here an example from Chile, which also is one of the area that is impacted by arsenic. So in Chile, the drinking water sites, they have to check the water quality every day, and they are testing arsenic as a crucial parameter because that region has a heavy presence of that in the drinking water. They did the trials and they really liked the fact how easy it was, and this means they could roll it out across many of their sites because you have a consistent procedure. This removes the human error, and you have the traceability with the data management system. The reduction of waste, the speed, all of this was considered a really good advantage. And finally, I want to mention this test also has a filter cartridge to remove interference. So when Lauren does the test, she'll also show you like how it helps to make the test more reliable. So here is one example, but we have many more case studies, and if you are interested in discussing that further, we can take that offline. You are always welcome to discuss with us, and we can also help you with the trials. If you have ongoing trials where you want to adopt this technology, we will support you with that. But without further wait, I now will pass over to Lauren, who is going to take us through a live demo of this. We have talked enough about this. Now we have a setup over here where we have a Cameo on the screen, and with the camera, we will be showcasing some of the key functions of the instrument, and Lauren is going to take us through the test and best practices. I'll switch over. Over to you, Lauren.
Thank you, Sharia. So thank you again, as Sharia mentioned earlier, for everybody joining. I know we have a lot of new people in the audience today, so we thought it would be really good to do a live demonstration of the arsenic test now that Sharia shared a lot of detail about why it's important to test it and how the chemio actually tests this. So as you can see on the screen, we have a chemio ready to go. And as you can see in the background are all the reagents that are required to do this test. Now they all come as part of the pack, so there's no additional parts required. Once you order a pack for arsenic testing, everything that is needed is required in that pack code. So for anybody unfamiliar with chemio at all, this is the box of sensors that come with it. And what you will notice on the back of the box is a QR code. Now, before any testing can begin on the device, the QR code must be entered into the device with the scanner there. This QR code holds the calibration data, the expiry date, and also the batch information of the sensors. Arsenic sensors have a 2-year expiry. Some stuff. So how you would scan this in is configuration, batch information, and plus the batch. This would then automatically turn on the sensor. And the chemio takes in here, as you can see, the batch number, the expiry date, and all the information around that sensor. So to begin a test, you would see the perform test on the main screen there. And this is the same for any test being performed on the device, but today we're going to concentrate on arsenic. So now you've scanned in the QR code, you want to scan in the sensor. So the sensors inside of the box look like this, and they have a scanning code on the outside, a barcode. Now this barcode on here is really important because this is what links the test to the QR code. So this is what links the calibration, ensuring you get accurate results. So if we press perform test again, it would come on. Sorry, that was that in the background. If we try again. And that now scans the sensor. And as you can see, it will give the option for which test to perform. So as Sharia mentioned, there are different forms of arsenic in the water, and the chemio can test for those different forms. But today we're going to concentrate on total arsenic. So that's the test that we're going to select. Now, a really good benefit to chemio, as you can see now, is our on-screen instructions. So anybody unfamiliar with the device can just follow the screen instructions step by step and ensure that they are doing the test correctly. So opening the arm. So while we're here, I just want to show where the connection is made. So inside of the chemio here is the contact pad, and this is why it's really important to ensure that when we're talking about the correct way to insert the sensor, that it only goes in one way so that the correct connection is made. Again, all of the reagents and accessories that are required come with the kit. So this would be the sample of water that you're going to perform. First step would be to flush out the syringe that's being used to make sure there is nothing else in there with the sample that you're about to test. So we're just going to flush that out. And then fill it to the 10 ml line. It's filled to the 10 ml. Now the ion exchange cartridge, when it comes in the kit, comes in a test tube with a cap. This is really important to keep it stored in here between uses to make sure that it doesn't dry out and there are no contaminants. Connect the cartridge to the fillet. It does only connect one way. There are two ends, but be sure that it does only connect one way so that you won't be using it the wrong way. Now you want to flush out the first 4 ml of the ion exchange cartridge and only use the remaining 6. Now you will see at the speed that this is being performed, this is really important because what's happening here is there are some metal interference that can interfere with this test, and this exchange cartridge has an exchange resin in there that removes those metal interference, but it does allow arsenic to pass through because of the different type of charge in there. Just going to flush through that 4, and then we'll get to the 6. Again, this is really important because it has to be done at this speed to ensure that the metals in the sample have enough time to bond with the resin. So now you want to pass the remaining 6 ml into the sample pot. Passing this through again at a steady pace to give sufficient time for those metals to be removed, and you can ensure that anything that may interfere with there, any metals in there, that they are removed and you are getting an accurate arsenic result. Passing it through. Just down to the final ml. Once the 6 ml is in the sample vessel, you will see that the level of the water is around the neck of the test tube itself. Now that's fully passed through. You can pop that to one side. Now the other part that needs to be filled here is the sample vessel. Now this you will see, this holder is where the vessel goes in that we've just prepared. The outside container must also be filled with the sample to be prepared. Now this doesn't need to be passed through the filter because this is just where the temperature probe is inserted. This is the temperature probe on the device here, and you need to make sure that the same sample that is in here is a sample that is being passed through the filter so that it is a consistent temperature. So you would fill in the outside up to the neck of the sample vessel, insert that into there, and then now we have the sample pot here. We want to use the SPT tablets. Now these are a buffer tablet that ensure that the condition of the sample is at the correct pH for this testing. Now there is also a correct sample pH before preparation. So for arsenic testing, the sample pH should be between 3 and 7, because anything outside of this, the buffer tablet only has a certain capability to bring it within that. Another thing to note while we're talking about the tablets is that you will see on the print here, these tablets are Soluprep SPT. Now, if you do buy a speciated arsenic testing pack, you will receive SPT and SPA. SPA is for speciated testing and SPT is for total. Now, they have different capabilities, so it is really important to use the correct tablets for each test. So today, again, 2 SPT tablets for total arsenic testing. When adding the tablets, be careful not to touch those because you don't want to add any contaminants. So just a little bit of a trick to get the tablets out of the foil, gently wriggling those to get them into the container without touching the tablet. So again, the crushing rods are supplied with the kit, and you want to fully crush and dissolve those tablets so that it is uniform in solution and that everything is in the correct pH and condition for arsenic testing. Just crushing and mixing that up in there. Now that's mixed up, you can pop that in to the cell holder that is left available inside of the Chemio. Now for inserting the sensor. The best way to insert this is the barcode is on the bottom and the number is on the top. Now you want to tear off the top half of the foil so that you have the white side facing you as inserted. So you want the white side facing up, inserted into the Chemio. As far as it will go, there is a good push in there to know that it's fully secure. And then you simply close the arm and the test begins. And as this test completes, in 2 minutes, you will have a result for total arsenic. Now, hopefully that demonstrated how quick and easy it is and how good it is to follow those instructions on the screen to get an arsenic result. But I thought it would be good to just explain that it is quite a technical test in the background. Again, users don't need to be aware of this. They need to simply follow the instructions and get the result on screen. But I thought it would just be good to explain what is actually happening here. So the arsenic sensor uses an electrochemical technique to measure the concentration in water. Now this uses a single-use disposable sensor. So again, these sensors, once used, cannot be reused. They must be discarded and a fresh sample and a fresh sensor for every test. So with the sensor alongside the buffer tablet, the device and sensor measure the chemical concentration using a technique called anodic strip envelopment, or ASV. Now this consists of 2 phases. And in the first phase, the test applies a voltage to the electrochemical cell, and that draws any metals in the sample to the sensor. And once they have bonded, that is when the reaction begins. After that, the voltage is gradually changed, causing the metal ions to be released back into the water. Now, as those metals are released back into the water, that is when the current flows. So with the calibration curve that we described in the QR code, the temperature probe, and the current flow of the instrument, and concentration can be calibrated and displayed on screen for the user. So again, all of that is what's happening in the background. It's a highly technical way to measure arsenic, but again, it's very easy, benefit friendly for the user. I'll get that out in the end. Sorry, everybody. It is very user friendly. So we have 20 seconds left and we'll get a total arsenic result. So again, just those things in there. Everything you can see on the screen is supplied with the kit. You don't need to purchase anything extra. You will get everything there. Take a sample of the water, follow the on-screen instructions. All of that technical ability happens in the background, and in 1 second, you will get a result on screen. Now that's good because we just have taken tap water samples, so we have got less than 2 micrograms per litre. The test range on this device for arsenic is 2 to 250 micrograms per litre. So now the test is completed, you can go into details where you could add things like users or labels, add any notes into there. You can go on to repeat the test. You can also scan the QR code for the upload. So now if you press QR code, it will bring up the code on screen. You would simply scan this with the Pale and Test Connect mobile app, and this result will automatically be uploaded to Pale and Test Connect account.
Lauren, there was a question in the chat. Please tell us about the effect of result on arsenic if the interference is with iron, pH, turbidity.
So this can be different across all of those. So if you do have highly turbid samples, it is recommended to filter those out. It's not affected by anything below 1 NTU, but turbidity can affect it because it's not the floating particles that's in there. So again, Chemio is unaffected by any sort of floating particles in there, but what might be the turbidity. So if it is a metal interferent, but most metal interferents are removed by the ion exchange cartridge, and we do have studies on this that we're happy to share with all interferences known with this testing after this call.
So I was showing the users on the camera that how the scanning feature works. So with the smartphone, you can scan the QR code and it picks up the data here. So I have the data here on my phone. It has gone up to the cloud. So any user who has access to the cloud system, they will be able to view the data if they are they have registered their device.
So now the test is completed, we will just move on to how to remove the sample and the sensor. So as lifting up, if you release the arm, the sensor simply falls into the pot. And again, this is a really good time to check the cleanliness of those contact pads, because if there are any water splashes on there or any marks at all, keeping those clean and dry, make sure accurate results are achieved. This can simply be cleaned with an alcohol wipe or a lint-free cloth, just anything that doesn't have any fibres on there. And for removing the sample itself, you simply lift out the whole container and it is ready to be disposed of. The arsenic sensors are non-hazardous, so they can be disposed of with accordance of your local regulations.
Lauren, another question in the chat as we go through, we'll just answer them. Why it not calibrate with the non-standard sample? I think the question is more links to the fact that why did we not blank it, I believe. Prashant, if you could explain it, elaborate it more, we'll answer that specific question. But as far as we are understanding, you're asking why not calibrated with non-standard sample. So these sensors, when Lauren scanned in the QR code, it picks up the calibration. So these calibrations have been done against lots of ICP-MS standard solutions. So we prepare at different levels, 5, 10, 50 ppb, and then we would collect the data from that, and that is all encoded in the QR code. So when we scan the sensor, it picks up that data from the batch. And then another question we have is, arsenic gas is highly toxic. Is there any possibility to exposure to arsenic gas during the test if the concentration is too high? So that's why there is a bung. However, that's a different test method. So I'll answer that question offline, Panthi. But yes, there is a system in place to protect the arsenic gas from leaking out. Thank you for the question. Please keep them coming through and we'll pick the remaining of the questions in the end.
Just before we jump back onto the presentation, I just wanted to share that Chemio check standards do come as part of Chemio kits, and they are used to verify the calibration of the instrument between annual servicing. So they are simply 3 metal conductors that apply a known voltage to the instrument applies a known voltage, and it measures the resultant current. Now, if any of these are outside of that, it will show on the screen, and that could be a sign of, again, the contact pads or any contamination to the check standard itself, or that the instrument is due a calibration if it is outside of that annual servicing. But we have more details on that, and I'll pass back over to Sharia for the presentation. So thank you everybody, and if you have any questions on the live demo, please drop them in the chat.
Thank you, Lauren. That was a really good demonstration. I'll pass you back to continue the presentation.
So thank you again, everybody. And now we're just going to go over again some of the user best practices. Now, these user best practices apply to using Chemio for any testing at all, because it's just to make sure that you get the most accurate results from doing so. So whether it's stated on how much to be used on the test, for example, in this one, 6 mil, or to filter the sample vessel line in the L-shaped unit on the outside, always fill that vessel line to make sure that the sensor is fully submerged and making correct contact, as well as the temperature probe. Thoroughly rinsing the sample between tests. So this is to make sure nothing from tests beforehand or anything that may have landed in that sample vessel between tests can have any interference. Do not reuse the sample or the sensor for further analysis. So once the sensor has made contact with the sample, the chemistry is already in there. So both need to be removed, replaced, and a fresh sample and sensor for every test. Now, not touching the sensor surface, so using the foil to fully insert. So you will have noticed on the demonstration that I tore off the top half of the foil, inserting it into the instrument, holding the bottom half. Now, if you do touch this, again, the chemistry is dosed on there and it will not make the correct result. Do not leave the sensor or sample in the instrument after test completion. Now, this is more for care of the instrument. So as you can imagine, it is a portable device that you are carrying around. There are chemicals in there. And if you pick up that device with the water sample still in there, although the instrument is IP67 rated, if that's left for a very long time, it could cause damage to the contact pad. So it is just wear and tear and general care and maintenance of the instrument. Fully inserting the sensor as shown on the demonstration and using the correct sensor for each temperature sample and temperature type, and leaving the chemio stable during testing. So those were some of the user best practices. Now these are instrument best practices. So you'll be familiar with some of these, for example, battery life using deep charge cycles. So to make sure that the battery lasts as long as it possibly can, try to fully charge the battery without using it when it charges slightly and then taking it away and putting it back in charge. But we do understand that people cannot let the battery charge all of the time, because if it is needed in an urgent case or somebody has to perform testing at a certain time, you can do so. But again, the instrument can be charged via USB-C at any chargeable source, but whether that be in a van or in a lab or out somewhere, just anywhere where there's power available. And there are a few more in here, for example, so inserting the USB cable gently, storing the instrument in a dry environment, keeping those contact pads clean and dry. I know I've mentioned it a few times now, but it is very important in this, keeping that contact pad clean and dry, because if that is working well, then the instrument will give the most accurate results possible. Running the check standards to ensure the instrument is in with the calibration, and also ensuring the instrument is current on the latest firmware. Now, where you would find the firmware for every instrument is in the download section of the Pale and Test website. And where you would find what the instrument is currently running on is in the settings menu itself inside of the device. So check standards again, just to cover this is what they look like inside of the kit there. There are 3 check standards supplied, all of those covering a different sensitivity range. So as I know we've only covered arsenic today, but the Chemio is capable of covering many parameters across many concentration ranges. And these 3 check standards together ensure that the instrument is performing as it should across all of those. It's really simple to do so. You would go into the configuration setting, select check standards, and again, you are prompted with on-screen instructions to follow. So you would just insert the standards in sequence as prompted, and a clear pass or fail on-screen result is shown. Each one takes roughly 10 seconds, so less than a minute to run check standards. So Chemio ordering information, just now that we're coming at the end of it, we thought it would be good to share the different variants. So the Chemio Heavy Metals does cover every heavy metal test that we offer, and the Chemio Multi covers all metals and all disinfection parameters. So again, we've covered arsenic today, but there are many variations of parameters available on these devices. The ordering codes are on screen. If anybody is interested in more information, please reach out to us or our sales team, and somebody can be there to support any questions that you may have. So this just shows here the heavy metals tests that are available, some of the different ones. So you do have arsenic, as we've covered today, cadmium, copper, we have lead on the disinfection device, which would be on the multi. So your disinfection parameters, if you were going for the multi to get the metals and the disinfection, there are parameters such as chlorine dioxide, chlorine, peracetic acid. But again, for further information, you can go to our website, and we do have a full product catalogue with all of that information on there. And for any ordering information, please again, just reach out to either me or Sharia or somebody from our sales team, and we can support that for you.
I will add to that. As you can see here, we talked about arsenic today, but Chemio heavy metals bring a lot many other parameters. So depending on your testing needs, we also provide the lead, cadmium, copper, as Lauren was mentioning. So with the same instrument, you have the capability to test not just arsenic, but various other parameters. So feel free to engage when you have any other requirements of any other parameter. We will be able to provide you a suitable solution. But for today's session, our focus was on the arsenic technology because given as such a topic of crucial importance.
So just to wrap up, we want to say thank you again very much for joining. Any questions that are in the chat, we will pick up just after this. And any questions that come after this, you have a dedicated team here at Pale and Test that consists of the sales team, the order processing team, the technical support team. We are a big family here at Pale and Test and everybody works together. These are the guys on the front line here to support you. So these are just some of the guys that work in our office here in Gateshead, and everybody is around to support at all times with any questions relating to sales, ordering, or technical support.
Thank you. So I'll stop sharing my screen so we can start with the question and answers, and we'll pick up some of the questions in the chat. So looking through the question, is the method being used here on AFA or standards, or is it any other recognized method? So the method that Cameo uses is ASV, anodic stripping voltammetry. Many of the labs actually test metals, heavy metals using anodic stripping voltammetry. So the science is exactly the same. What we have done, where we have innovated, is making it into a simple field usable device which can be carried out, and an operator can carry out the test within a matter of minutes. Whereas ASV in the lab, the same